Imagine a giant pig, but not the kind you would see on a farm today. Imagine something heavier, taller, and far more unsettling, with the skull of a predator and the presence of an animal that doesn't quite belong to anything familiar. This wasn't fiction, and it wasn't an exaggeration. This was Entelodont, one of the strangest, most unusual, and most unsettling mammals to ever walk the earth. Often nicknamed the Hell Pig, not because it was actually a pig, but because of how it looked. It seemed like something taken directly from a nightmare. Its proportions felt wrong, its skull felt exaggerated, and its entire appearance gave the impression of something aggressive, even before it moved. But what exactly was this animal? Where did it come from? And how did something like this evolve? And perhaps most importantly, how did a creature like this survive in a world that was already full of powerful predators? Despite its appearance, Entelodont wasn't actually a pig at all. The resemblance is superficial, something our brain immediately connects to something familiar. But biologically, it belonged to a completely different group of mammals, one that is more closely related to animals like hippos and even whales than to modern pigs. This alone makes it even more unusual. A creature that looks like something we recognize, but is evolutionarily closer to animals that today live in water, far removed from anything that resembles it. Entelodonts lived millions of years after the extinction of the dinosaurs, during a time when mammals were expanding, diversifying, and experimenting with entirely new forms. Ecosystems were changing, new niches were opening, and evolution was producing creatures that filled roles in unexpected ways. In that context, Entelodont became something truly unique. It didn't fit cleanly into the categories we use today. It wasn't a typical predator, but it wasn't harmless either. It occupied a space somewhere in between. Entelodonts lived between about 37 and 16 million years ago, during a period of Earth's history when climates and landscapes were shifting significantly. Their fossils have been found across North America, Europe, and Asia, suggesting that they were highly adaptable animals, capable of surviving in a wide range of environments. This wasn't a creature limited to a single niche or region. It moved across continents, across ecosystems, adapting to whatever conditions were present at the time, and the world they lived in was very different from today. Vast open landscapes stretched across large areas. Early grasslands began to appear, and forests gave way, in some regions, to more open and competitive environments. These ecosystems were filled with animals that no longer exist. Many of them strange, many of them specialized, and many of them competing for the same resources. And within these environments, Entelodont was not just present, it was one of the dominant animals. These animals were large, and their size alone would have made them noticeable. Some species could grow over 2 meters in length, with bodies that were heavy, solid, and built for power rather than speed. At the shoulder, they could reach heights comparable to a human, giving them an imposing presence when standing still, and an even more intimidating one when moving. Their heads were massive, supported by thick muscular necks capable of handling significant force. Their bodies were not designed for long chases or high-speed pursuits. but rather for endurance, strength, and resilience. And yet, despite all of this, what truly set them apart was their skull. The skull of Entelodont is what earned it the nickname Hell Pig. It was large, heavy, and unlike the skull of almost any other mammal. It was covered in strange bony protrusions, structures that flared outward, especially around the cheek area, giving the skull a wide, almost exaggerated appearance. These features were not just decorative, they likely served functional roles, possibly for protection or as attachment points for powerful muscles. Their jaws were incredibly strong, capable of exerting significant force when closing, and their teeth were designed for versatility. Not specialized for just one type of diet, but capable of crushing, tearing, and grinding depending on what was available. As a matter of fact, the name Entelodont means complete teeth. This combination made them one of the most intimidating mammals of their time. Even today, when we look at their fossilized skulls, there is something unsettling about them. Something that feels almost unnatural, as if the proportions don't quite match what we expect. So what did Entelodont actually eat? The answer is not simple, and that's part of what makes it so interesting. It was most likely an omnivore. This means it could consume a wide variety of food sources, including meat, plant material, and carcasses left behind by other predators. Its powerful jaws allowed it to crush bone, something that very few animals are capable of doing effectively. This suggests that it may have scavenged, feeding on remains that other animals couldn't fully consume. At the same time, some evidence suggests that it may have hunted smaller animals when the opportunity presented itself, not necessarily as a specialized predator, but as an opportunist, taking advantage of whatever resources were available. Some scientists believe it leaned more towards scavenging. Others believe it may have been more actively predatory, but the most likely explanation is that it did both. Opportunistic, adaptable, and always capable of exploiting its environment. Entelodonts may not have been particularly fast, but speed was not their advantage. Their size, their strength, and their durability would have made them formidable in close encounters. It's also possible that they were aggressive, even toward members of their own species. Some fossils show signs of injuries, marks that suggest individuals may have fought with one another. In a world where competition was constant, survival often depended on being as dangerous as possible, and Entelodont clearly fit that role. But the world around them did not remain the same. Over time, environments continued to change. Forests receded in some areas, open landscapes expanded, and new types of animals began to evolve. Faster animals, more specialized predators, creatures better adapted to endurance and long-distance movement. As these changes continued, Entelodonts gradually disappeared, not because they were weak, but because the world around them was changing in ways that no longer suited them. And today, what remains are their fossils, reminders of a creature that doesn't quite fit into our modern expectations, a mammal that looks familiar and yet completely alien at the same time. Entelodont remains one of the strangest mammals we have ever discovered, a creature that challenges how we think about evolution and about the shapes that life can take. Because evolution doesn't always create what we expect. Sometimes, it creates something entirely unexpected.